This story begins far beyond the mountains and the shadows. A lion was born without a drop of nobility in his blood. A lion who would change our lives forever.
I'm curious what some of the themes and ideas were that you wanted to explore with this film that drew you to the project.
When I first read the script, I assumed I knew everything about these characters. And, you grow up watching Disney films. And so I had a relationship to The Lion King and to these characters. And I was amazed to see how much about these characters I did not know that I assumed I knew. And even more to the point, that a character like Mufasa, who I always assumed was someone who was not like me. This person is of royal lineage. This person was born to be great, which are none of the things I think of myself. If you've seen Moonlight, you've seen the world I come from. And then to learn that a character like Mufasa also came from that experience, I was just incredibly moved and thought, this is something that I should apply my voice to.
Okay, so this may be a silly question, but you're Barry Jenkins, so I imagine they were pursuing you, or did you have to pitch your vision of this because it is new to you?
No, I didn't have to pitch my vision. They came to me. But what I did state was I couldn't make this film and not be me. That if I was going to make this movie, it needed to be made in my voice. It had to have the same cinematographer, the same editor, the same production designer, the same producers, even though we were all going to learn a new language of how to create images. And the studio agreed.
Dan and Adam, you both worked on this film's predecessor, The Lion King. What did you sort of set out hoping to achieve with Mufasa in terms of, continuing to raise the bar?
The big mission was to represent faces and emotion at a new level. And then this script demanded a huge world and all kinds of interaction, in the snow, in the water. And so on every front, we were pushing ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be like speaking another language because I don't know anything about tech. How do you sort of get on the same page with that language?
When we started, it was very, obvious that we were, animation is slow, and there's not a lot of iteration, quick, organic iteration that can happen. The animation looks good at the very end, not at the start, and so we developed a few different things, like using motion capture. Normally with motion capture, it's with a human, and, and on stage you direct them, and that's, been done before. However, we had lions, and so we developed a system that basically you could have people on the stage acting like humans, and on a screen you could see the lions in their virtual world, and Barry could react to them as well as the actors. And essentially it gave Barry an organic, iterative kind of approach.
Did you have real animals, like in a studio?
No.
Okay.
But my dog was there.
Chauncey was there?
Chauncey was there.
Oh.
And I'll never forget, there was one scene we were doing. You start with the voices of the principal cast, and Joy, our editor, cuts that together so we could play the whole movie just in the dark room with just voices. But then these guys evolved the technology to where I could then direct the physical blocking of the scene. We'd play the scene out loud, the audio of it, and then I'm directing them in these suits as the lions through how the actors would be physically moving. But there was this one day we were doing this scene and they were stalking, and Chauncey just went crazy. He's like, because he thought he was on their team. He was a part of their pack. They were just like moving at a certain speed, and you can tell that they were being stealth. It was really cool.
Did Chauncey make it into the movie at all?
I think so.
Yeah.
I got a dog right when this process started. I'd never had a pet before. When I came onto the project, we talked about the eyes of these animals needing to be very alive, because I watched this dog grow up and I could see that he was actually emoting. And so I think, especially when Mufasa's a cub, it's very much my golden doodle.
I actually do want to talk about casting this because I'm curious if you cast it the way you would, a live action project. Did you know the actors you want? Were there auditions? Did you have meetings?
Typically, actors have all these different things they can utilize. In baseball, you call it a 5-tool player, but in this case, you're reducing that player to a single tool, which is the voice. Aaron Pierre, who plays Mufasa, is physically stunning. Does not matter. What can you do with your voice? And so it creates this really wonderful meritocracy. It was actually one of the more fun parts of the process. Typically, in a movie, you do a take, and then you got to move the lights, move the camera, all these different things. Take is done. Boom. You give a note. We're going again. And it was just really nice to be able to explore, both in the casting and in recording the audio track.
Aaron and Kelvin, as Mufasa and Taka, they have great chemistry. Were they playing off each other at all, or were they recorded completely separately?
They were in separate booths, but they were recording at the same time. We tried to have live stimulus as much as possible. Typically, for any sound people in the room, you don't want actors overlapping their dialogue. But if you're in different booths and you have your headsets on, you can overlap to your heart's content, and you always have a clean track. So it actually was a blessing. So we tried to get as many people together at the same time frame as possible to record.
Was Aaron at all intimidated? I mean, knowing he's following in James Earl Jones's giant paw prints.
I tried to tell them it's not about projecting who this character is going to become. It's about being very present. There's no reason why this person as a cub should show that they're going to become the voice of James Earl Jones. The whole point of the film is that through going on this journey, collecting this found family, learning from these experiences through just a beautiful, beautiful mothering that Mufasa receives, he then evolves into that person.
So you have all this recording when you're starting and you're working off of that. Can you sort of take us through the process? Like you get like, is it, I guess, close to a final audio cut?
Yes.
Give to them? Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. We kind of take every bit of inspiration we can get. We really had to dig into animal behaviours, little things like a character could be sort of thinking, and then their tail sort of twitches or something like that, or the ear twitches or something like that. It takes sort of animalistic moments to help us to the performance.
You probably did a lot of prep for the first Lion King on how animals behave. So I don't know if there's anything new you learned in this time.
In the first film, it was much more naturalistic, more documentary sort of style movement. In this case, we were really trying to put a bit of a human inside the creatures and trying to get more expressiveness. Barry was amazing with this. Like, he let us go far, and we dialed back. And sometimes we even went further than we thought we could get away with technically, but as long as the expression read, that was what the most important thing was for us.
I'd really love to talk about the massive flood, because that's just so impressive on so many levels. Where do you even start with something like that?
What we did was we actually started by running water simulations in the computer down that set. And we needed Barry to tell us, what level of threat, what level of intensity. Once we kind of got the bones of that, Dan could do animation to that water simulation, turn that over to Joy, our editor, get a cut back. Now we have to do that all over again, because that simulations of water that we did at the beginning was a guide, but now you need to make it look photorealistic. You need to stop and really take your time. You're going from things that are taking weeks to things that are taking months. In the end, it's pretty fun. Like, it pops and you feel that peril.
This thing with the flood, it came about. It was just one line in the script. But I remember I had been to Hawaii, and I remember seeing this video of this place they call the Queen's Bath, where the tide comes in this little tidal pool, and the kids just jump in it, and they're just laughing their heads off, and you see the water's going up and going down. They're getting washed out into the ocean. I brought it back to these guys. I was like, can we do this? Would this be cool? Because it was right on the fine line between adventure and peril, which was the language we kept using, adventure versus peril.
Did you find it was sort of like learning another language? Like you had to find ways to communicate?
It reminded me of when I first learned how to make movies in film school. We shot everything on 16 millimeter, and when you're working in that way, there's no monitor to show you exactly what the shot looks like. You send it off to the lab, you give notes to the timer, it comes back. Then you see what you have. This is kind of the same way, because there's so many steps in the process. Once that clicked in, then it felt like it wasn't like learning a completely new language. It was like moving from, one Germanic language to another.
Actually, how long did that take to do the flood sequence?
While the final shot sequence might have taken about 7 months to do it, you're still balancing that sequence against others. You do it in these passes. The upside of that is maybe you can see where it's emerging and adjust. The downside is the time you mentioned, how long it takes. And you kind of have to imagine into the future as you're going, because it won't really be until the thing is done that you really actually finally see it.
At what point did Lin-Manuel Miranda come on board? Did he already have songs when you started working on the movie, or you?
No, typically in a musical, you have the songs first, and the movie kind of wraps around them. But in this case, we started making the film first, and Lin came on maybe a third of the way through. The cool thing about that was he was able to watch the film and get inspired by the movie. So when Taka, at the end of the race, says, "I have a secret, Mufasa, I always wanted a brother," that wasn't the name of the song, but Lin right away sees on that lyric and said, "Oh, this is a song." And so it was really great working with him in that way. He was responding to the film and not vice versa.
I love that you mentioned that song, because I was talking earlier about how that's my favorite song. Although I do love the love ballad as well. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Well, I want to remind everyone this movie is now in theaters. You can go again and again. Thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you all so much for being here again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.